Going to get started. So before we dive into our presentation, I just want to briefly highlight a little bit about us, the host organizations of today's webinar. So my name is Melissa, and I'm the Incubator Program Coordinator of the Innovation Quarters. And at the Innovation Quarters, we offer a 6-month-long incubator program that helps new startups succeed, and that includes one-on-one mentoring, programming, training, networking and events, and also a collaborative workspace. And that space is actually open to the public. We're at 43 Elm Street, downtown Sudbury. And we have co-working options. So as you can see in the photos, you can come and work here for the day, for the month, however it is. If you have an office and you're looking to get out of the office, or if you're working from home and you're just, you know what, it's not a good work environment at home right now, come and work in our office space. It's a really wonderful space with some really great amenities. So you can visit our website at innovationquarters.ca to take a look at the space rental options, and also at the incubator program. That's going to be our next cohort. It's going to be starting in the spring. And our co-host for the event, we have a few of them on the call today, is the Regional Business Center. And the Regional Business Center is a one-stop shop for information, guidance, and starting and expanding and operating a business. They serve a larger catchment area, which is not only Greater Sudbury, but that also includes Espanola, Manitoulin Island, and the surrounding areas. And they offer confidential one-on-one business plan support, market research, which I highly encourage you to partake in. And they can also help you register your business. So if you have a question, any kind of question about your business, feel free to give them a call or visit their website at regionalbusiness.ca to book one of those one-on-one consultations. And we have a shared calendar of events. So every event that the Innovation Quarters is hosting is the same for the Regional Business Center when it comes to webinars. So it really is a joint effort into helping the entrepreneurial Sudbury community. And just a few upcoming webinars I want to kind of mention. We have Exploring Entrepreneurship and Starting a Small Business that are both happening in January. That's part of the entrepreneurship series of webinars that the Regional Business Center rotates through. Really great topics if you're looking to get started. And then on January 23rd, we have guest speaker Jerica, who is the owner of Ginger Snap Salon. And she's going to be speaking on where to reach your customers and how to keep them, which is going to be a really great topic, for people that like, how do I get customers, or I have customers, but how do I get them to stick around? So really great webinar there. And then February 6th, you'll be hearing from me on brand image and how your customers perceive you, going beyond just the logo. You can register for any of these webinars and any other upcoming events at innovationquarters.ca or on the Regional Business Center website. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker for today. Dawson Seeley is the proud owner and operator of Sudbury Windows and Doors, serving Northern Ontario homeowners with custom windows and door solutions. A McMaster University graduate with a credentials in commerce and geography, Dawson is a dedicated working professional husband and father of 2. His passion is traveling the world with his family and delivering innovative products to customers. So welcome, Dawson.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing my screen. Okay, and we'll get right into it. So today's session is going to be an interview style. So I'll be asking Dawson some questions. And at the end, we're going to have some time for some Q&A. So please, if you have any questions at any time, put them in the chat and we'll be reviewing those at the end. Okay, so Dawson, why don't you, talk a little bit about yourself, about the company that you own, a little bit about your background at Sudbury Windows and Doors, and perhaps maybe a little bit about what you've created, what you've invented.
Sounds good. Well, I want to start off by saying thanks for having me, Melissa. It's great to be here with all you guys and to go over some of the stuff that I've done. As you stated, I do own and operate Sudbury Windows and Doors. Went to McMaster University and have a family of 2 kids with my wife. But yeah, so for the most part, I've been at Sudbury Windows and Doors for 6 years. I've owned it for 2. And we supply windows and doors to the residents of Sudbury and surrounding areas. And so some of the stuff that we've really done is innovation on doors. We manufacture the door here in Northern Ontario. So your standard front door. You walk in and out of it every day. Everyone uses one. But how do we make it better? Why should it be made better, more durable, better weather stripping for the cold winters that we're currently experiencing, and that kind of stuff was what we wanted to do. So what we more or less invented and we have designed is extra weather stripping for your door, a better threshold, and a sturdier door, more or less. So we use better hinges on the door for sure. But the main thing that we designed is the weather stripping itself. So typically your door has a weather stripping on the face of it, but not on the jamb of it. So the edge going around the door doesn't typically have a seal. So we took our frame and we milled the frame down so that it accepts an additional weather stripping, innovating that product that you typically just buy from a supplier to manufacture a door to make it a better door. Adding that extra weather stripping really seals that door and keeps the air out. And so we designed the process to mill it down through your table saws and your routers. Design the actual 3-fin. At first we were using a 2-fin, redesigned to a 3-fin. With the 3-fin being available in an option, we put that into the groove of the jamb all the way around the door, so that that door operates better, smoother, and it has a tighter seal. So that's one of the main things we've innovated and created. But at the same time, we do have a couple other products, a sauna window that opens and closes. Most sauna windows don't open and close. We have a screen door. So your standard screen door, like an old granny door, they're made out of wood. We took our patio sliding door and innovated it so that it can be used on a man door. And at the same time, our sealed units, making a tougher sealed unit for a door glass on tip to tip. So when you have a full length door glass on the side, most people use tempered glass. We decided that we were going to use the same glass as your car windshield. It's as tough as your car windshield. It's 5 panes of glass instead of 3, better insulating. And it's actually a more cost-effective product for us to make in Sudbury to deliver to homeowners. And those are the majority of the things that we've done in the last few years to improve our actual doors.
Really impressive list of creations, Dawson, and really exciting to hear about it. And those are all products that you've helped develop, correct? So what
Yes.
really inspired you to get started, to get started in creating something like that or modifying doors and windows?
So I've always been inspired by challenging and creating solutions to improve people's lives. And to be totally honest with you, I never actually pictured myself in windows and doors, right? I mean, the average kid or guy goes to universities, commerce, geography. The last thing that you think you're going to end up in is construction or windows and doors. And so that was kind of an interesting swing as I started doing residential painting during university to pay for it. Moved back to Sudbury, got the job at Sudbury Windows, started working as a sales agent. But I knew a lot more things than just sales in general from my background. So I started to listen to my customers saying, hey, like, I wish I could have this for my door, or the door doesn't operate this way. And just listening to people's feedback of selling them a door and having the manufacturing power to change that is what really inspired me to be like, hey, okay, I go to my guys who they've been manufacturing these things for years. And I go, okay, we do it this way, but what if we changed it to be like this? Would it work? And then you see them, their light bulb fires up, right? And they go, well, what about this and this? And then the collaboration and just the the fun, right, of watching these guys being able to develop an idea that I have and sit back and go, okay, this actually helps my customer as well. How can we make it more cost effective to help the business and more enjoyment for the employees? And when you find all of them come together, it's just something that has become really joyful. So I continue to do it to improve products.
That's great to hear. And it kind of a little bit of a segue into our next question. How did you figure out that these ideas that you had were unique or different than what already exists in the market?
Well, so for the most part, what you have to really do is look at what people are currently using. A lot of it was my customers telling me, which is not always the case for a lot of people. Some people might not have a customer base to begin with, but it's also using tools. So start by clearly defining the problem your product aims to solve. Right. For me, the problems were people wanting more light into their entranceway, right? So to get more light into their entranceway, we need to have a big side glass. To do that, it needs to be safer than what's currently out there. And developing that safety is where I went with it. So you need to do some market research to understand the existing solutions and identify the gaps, right? And so a huge way to do this, it's some great tools are Statistics Canada and obviously ChatGPT, and a mixture of the two of them, and then real world questionnaires. So you send out real world questionnaires to people, Facebook polls, that kind of stuff. But a huge thing too that I really like using is Statistics Canada. I'm a very statistical kind of person. I'll sit down and say, okay, I need to research what markets are in demand of certain things, and there's just so much information on Statistics Canada. And then I'll use that information, go to a place like ChatGPT where I can punch it in, and how it helps me make sense of all the statistics and that kind of stuff, saying, okay, and then asking questions and Googling, do people already do this, right? So like my extra weather stripping, there is a version of extra weather stripping, but it's not milled into the jam. It's just a glued on strip. Okay, so obviously it's not going to last the test of time as much as something built into the door, right? And then from there, you're creating a basic concept or sketch, or gathering just initial ideas. If you have partners and people you work with, going over it with them. Do you think this is a good idea or not a good idea, right? And that's kind of how we designed our patio door that was a sliding screen door onto the actual man door, to operate with self-closing hinges and that kind of stuff. Was going through all of it with my one guy and saying, how can we do this? Can we do this? And using the proper tools to say, how many people are actually going to use this? How many storm doors are bought? Because in replace of a storm door, we're going to put a screen door. And just how many, what is the market like? Like I use ChatGPT to say, how many houses are in Canada? How many doors does the average house have? And then you can start looking at all these statistics to gather information and say, okay, there's 20 million houses in Canada, and each door typically has 3 exits. So now you're 20 million, you're at 60 million doors, right, across Canada, and houses that'll need to be replaced. That's not including apartments. And how many are there's going to need a screen door or want one, right? And then you can take just percentage and averages, say, okay, so 5% or 2% are going to need them. And then you start getting a more clear understanding of, is your product being able to be used, and how many people realistically need what you're trying to create.
Certainly some really great tools that you've shared. And I think that can, I hope people are taking notes. So my next question here, I think we did talk a little bit about assessing the feasibility of a new product idea. So maybe we'll just jump into, what role does your customer feedback play in refining your product idea before going into production? Did you get people to test these? How did you get your customer involved in the development?
And so the screen door was one of the biggest ones that I had a customer involved in. I was actually a customer who asked me for it. And at first I said no. And then I sat there and I said, okay, well, what are you looking for, right? And it was the screen door. This is what I'm looking for. I want it to operate this way. And so they were the main reason why I actually ended up building the screen door. So customer feedback is everything. And creating more or less quizzes or reports that you can give out to customers and say, this is what I'm looking at doing. How would you use this in your life? Why would you use this in your life? And understanding to make sure that when you're developing your product, it is going to have a purpose that your consumer is looking for.
I keep muting myself and then forgetting to mute myself. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, so when you get into prototyping, what are some best practices for building a prototype? So I'm assuming that the prototyping you did in-house, correct? Or did you outsource that?
Yes, so we did all the prototyping in-house for sure. And so for prototyping, you need to create and test models, right? So you're going to be looking at different styles of, like for my instance was the jams. and the weather stripping. I need to look at different thicknesses, different depths. How far is that going to stick out past my jamb to meet up with my door? If it's too thin, it's going to let air through. If it's too thick, you're not going to be able to close your door, right? So you need to figure out what your objective is and how you're going to accomplish it. Right. So you want to identify goals and the steps to creating those. So you're going to use sketches or mind maps, mock-ups, and create your tangible product. Right. So you do your first couple of kind of sketches or your mind map, depending on what you prefer, whether you're an artistic person or more of a literature person. And then from there, you're going to go to the people that are helping you design this product or make this product to try and design a mock-up. Right. Once you have your mock-up, is this mock-up good? And then from there, you might go back to your customers or the people that you've discussed with and show them your mock-up, right? What kind of idea do you have to alter this or change this? And then from there, look at creating a tangible, usable product.
Mm-hmm. Those are some great pointers. And certainly I think something that anybody designing anything could use, right? Not just for specifically products like a physical product like you mentioned.
Yeah, right. So I would definitely recommend we call it A/B testing with like a focus group, which would be kind of your client when designing and moving forward. But try to have slightly two different versions and document the interactions that the customer's having with the two different versions, right? So like I said, at first we had it with a 2 weather stripping on the jamb. And then we moved to a 3-fin weather stripping. It's still 1 weather stripping, just has 3 fins instead of 2. And you could feel the door getting tighter, and it would close. It's still closed as well. But instead of changing the depth of the weather stripping, we just added another fin to it. Or instead of doing 2 weather stripping on the side, just adding that fin really gave it that extra, like, kind of pull to open up the door. And you could really feel the suction when you closed it.
Right. So how do you handle the situation when something you've developed, like a product, doesn't really meet the expectations, or it fails to kind of resonate with the people, with your target audience?
So, and that's one of the most interesting things, is because if you develop something that doesn't resonate with your target audience and you actually have a good viable product, then you have to go back and look at your audience. Did I look at the correct demographics? Did I look at the correct people? There's so many times a product has been designed for one use and ends up in a totally different situation, right? So you have to decide, did I target the audience right? Or is this product not actually feasible to be used the way that I designed it to be used? And if that's the case, can I alter the design to try again? Or should I be now looking at designing something else in a totally different category, right? So you have to, once again, going back to a mind map, and you start off with, okay, my product didn't work. Why didn't it work? Did it work because of this? Yes or no? Did it work because of this? Yes or no? And then you're creating a map of, okay, I designed it for somebody who's in the age of 60, but turns out maybe somebody in the age of 20 will use it more, right? And to look at different avenues of the actual product, not just say, oh, it didn't work for what I designed it for. You really have to be open-minded and saying, okay, right? So for example, when I developed the sauna window, right, I was trying to use a certain weather stripping, and this weather stripping would melt. So you can't use that weather stripping for the sauna window. But it turns out when I manufactured the screen door weather stripping, I used it for the screen door, right? So later on down the line, I did order a weather stripping that was no good for the sauna window. But then when it came time to develop another product, I was like, oh, I have this product still. Let's try that on there. Oh, look, it worked. That's great. And to keep moving forward, because it might not even be the product that you're designing, but it also could be some of the items that you purchased to design the product doesn't work now, but you might find a use for it later as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a really great point. So there is some trial and error involved, though.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. So what are the key steps for successfully bringing a product to market and attracting the first customer? So this is now you've developed the product, you've prototyped it, you're happy with it. What would you do at this point?
All right. So some key stages. This one I have a little bit. This one's a quite important section. So your key stages include your ideation, then your validation, your prototyping is in there, your refinement, production, and launch. So at first, your ideation is the idea, the creativity. So you're brainstorming the concept, the development. One of the biggest things, once again, that I've kind of talked about is be open-minded and diverse in your perspective, right? You're creating a product and you might think it's going to be for this certain use, but try to be more mindful of that. Be very open-minded because you might come across other uses that it can be for. And doing the mind mapping and another technique called Scamper. You can go through that as well. Quickly Google it, and it goes through all the steps of how you do a Scamper technique to just go through different verifications of, am I doing things correctly? Scamper's spelled SCAMPER, and it's a brainstorming technique. From there, you go to validation. So that's also your market research. We've talked about it lightly. And the biggest thing that I can go over is just listen, listen, listen. Most likely you're not correct. The market is, and it's really hard to swallow that pill because you want to be correct, or I want to be correct, that's for sure. But when you design something, if people don't like it, it can be as simple as literally color. You don't know what the market likes. Changing something very easily and listening to what your consumer is saying can really help. And then we did talk about using media polls, statistics can, and discussing with people that you know. From there, prototyping, we did just go over that. Big thing in prototyping is your A/B testing. And then from there, after A/B testing, you're ready to go ahead with it. We look at refinement. So it's addressing the feedback to improve the functionality. And this goes right back to listen, listen, listen. During your refinement stage, you have your prototype. You're now getting ready to manufacture it and start your production. But use the 5 senses that humans have, right? Adapt the product where it's needed to improve the functionality. Don't forget to keep the costs in mind. Determine if improvements are needed at this stage, or if the improvements that now people have said, hey, you're going to improve the product this way and this way and this way, do those need to be done for your initial production? Or is that a stage 2 of this product, right? We need that initial launch. Bringing something to market to begin with is difficult enough, right? So we do want to improve things, but is this worth improving, right? Or is this what we're going to improve next year, but we want to bring this product to market now? Because nothing's perfect the first time around. And what you're creating may be better than what's currently available, right? So you want to make sure all the stakeholders agree with this decision. But just because someone says, it would be way better if we did this, it doesn't mean that the cost of doing that right now is feasible. And it doesn't mean that we need to do that right now, because the product we're bringing to market may already be better than what's there. And that was a great suggestion, but that's for later, because this product just needs to come to market the way it is now. So keep that in mind during the refinement process. And that's mind mapping again, right? Designing that, okay, this was a great idea. Is it worth us doing? From there, we go to production and scaling for manufacturing. So while scaling, we go to SMART goals. So we want to use SMART goals. SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time. Most of us probably know what these are. And from there, for your production, you have more or less 9 stages, depending on your product. Some stages you may not have, some of them you may have. But we go to number 1, the process planning and manufacturing methods. So you have to make sure that you understand your process and your manufacturing methods, right? It's a lot easier for me. I have a whole manufacturing facility behind me. These guys already know what they're doing, but for your product, maybe it's never been manufactured before. Maybe you're not just lightly tweaking something and you have to start from the beginning. So creating that manufacturing method is it's huge. From there, you go to number 2, which is supplier management. This is a huge thing. Like I said, I order products from suppliers, and if you're developing a product, you probably will too. Supplier management is huge, and finding a lot of suppliers. You might think, oh, I have a supplier. You have no idea how much that supplier can actually supply. Everyone's going to say, oh, I got lots of it, lots of it, lots of it. And then your product takes off and they don't have lots of it, right? And now you're sitting there like, oh, that's crazy, because this product was never used in excess before, right? Weather stripping is one thing. I had to switch suppliers because the guy that was supplying me weather stripping no longer supplied it. And I was like, okay, and now you're right back to the drawing board when you're going from a 2-fin weather stripping to a 3-fin weather stripping and finding someone to produce it. And then your capacity planning. So once again, that's during your production, right? Am I making 100 of these? Am I making 3,000 of these? This manufacturer is only going to make me a minimum order for this manufacturer is 1,000, but I only need 100. Well, keep looking for a new manufacturer. There's tons of resources available out there, and find that. That is a huge thing when you're actually going to be producing the product. Your quality assurance is another thing. You got to decide what room for error is there. There's always going to be error in manufacturing. What amount of error are you okay with, and does your product still allow and work properly with error? Harley Davidson and Toyota are two of the top manufacturers across the world, and that's because they have the room for the smallest error of a part. It's down to the millionth of a millimeter, whereas another auto manufacturer will let the part slide if it's not perfect, right? And you see that when you hear people talk about auto industry. Toyotas are always at the top, but they have that quality assurance. So what is your acceptable rate? And then lean manufacturing. That's another thing to be thinking about when we're in the production stage. Lean manufacturing goes into how can we use more of this material to keep manufacturing? Can we use our waste? Can we use our cutoffs? That kind of stuff. If you're the one manufacturing it, if you've outsourced manufacturing, something that you don't have to worry about. Technology integration. You developed the product, you're selling the product. Does your invoices, are they moving to QuickBooks properly? Is this an online product? What's your technology integration like? Mine was absolutely horrible. I'm a physical product. None of my guys like technology. They're all older gents and ladies. And I pull out, clock in on your phone, and they're up in arms. I can't do that. It's right. So technology integration can be something as little as clocking in and out on your phone to, a whole entire operating system that's running your product because you're building the next QuickBooks, right? And from there we go into training your workforce. Definitely something to consider while you're doing your production stage and planning. Pilot production runs, whether you decide that that's necessary or not. And then lastly goes back to supplier, but your supply chain developing and having that mind map made up and understanding your supply chain development. I have to get my wood from a supplier. I have to get my glass from a different supplier. I have to get my handles for my doors from a different supplier. And then I have to send my truck to go pick up all of these things from each individual supplier, bring them back to my office. Once they come into my office, they all have to be organized properly in their different sections of how the door gets built. And then from there, my supply chain continues as it has to get to my customer. Are they picking it up? Am I installing it? And understanding your supply chain and the full development of your supply chain, start to finish, is very important for a product that you're developing, because if it can't get to your customer, it'll never be used. And that's, for the most part, the main points I talk about when producing your production of your product.
Yeah. Dawson, what a great answer. And I'm sorry our question was so open, but it's okay.
Yeah,
We covered everything in it. And some key highlights of that, I want to say, I love that you mentioned SMART goals. Definitely something that a lot of people, within our programs have had to do, and definitely a great way to really get working on those tasks of developing or launching a business. But one key thing that you mentioned as well at the beginning of it was understanding when to just go ahead and launch it, right? That, if you're always striving for perfection, that it's almost never going to get done, right? And just saying, okay, well, we can revise it later, fix it later. This could be a phase B or whatever it is. But I thought that was a really great point. And I think that a lot of people need to kind of take a moment to step aside and say it's good enough, right? So that they can
definitely.
get started.
And one thing that I use that a lot of people probably know when I talk about this, and it's kind of funny, but is the game Minecraft. So a lot of people are familiar with the game Minecraft, whether their kids play it, they play it, or whatever. But Minecraft has been around for a long time. I started playing Minecraft probably when I was 12. And when I started playing, I played in the beta stage. So it was a beta like 0.01, and I played throughout all the betas. And Minecraft is one of the things that I watched grow. When I started, there was no trees, it was just blocks. And then eventually they added trees, and then they added animals, and then they added different stuff. And then it got past the beta stage, and Microsoft came along and bought it. Now you get on the game, and I don't even know what's going on. There's more things that happen in this game than you can shake a stick at, but it's just to show you that it's now one of the world's largest games. And it literally started off in a beta stage, released, and you had to pay, I think, $10 for it. And then over time, it's now become this huge game that most people know worldwide. And it's because he just started it off in its beta stage and kept developing it as it went. But if you would have tried to get it to where it is now, it probably would have never came out. It would have never been a game.
That's a great example. Let's jump into pricing. So, how did you approach pricing for some of these products?
Okay, let me see where I have some of my pricing stuff. How do you approach? There we go. All right, so pricing. So base pricing on product costs. You have to analyze your competitors, and also its perceived value. So you have your production costs, your competitors, and your perceived value. So first you talk about production cost, and you have to understand your production cost, right? So when pricing out a product, a company wants a minimum of, in my opinion, 100% return on the product being created. So say you're manufacturing a new watch for $60, you're going to be wanting to sell that watch for at least 120. This does greatly change based on industry. For example, like Nike, a Nike shoe's made for $30 to $40 and sells for $150 to $200. You can get cheaper ones, but they're also manufactured for less. So textile industry is a 400% markup on average. My window and door industry, I have stuff that's only a 60% markup. But one of the most interesting industries also is the printer industry. They sell you a printer, and the markup on a printer is like 30%. They're like making no money on a printer. And then the ink is like a 200 to 300% markup. So it also depends on your product, and you have to be flexible in that of thinking, okay, so this is my actual product. Does my product have other items that come with it? Am I creating a month-to-month subscription, kind of like QuickBooks? Or am I creating an actual, just a product it's just a tangible product, doesn't have anything that's connecting to it, like your front door? You're just buying your front door, and what do you want your markup to be? So whenever I do a product, I always say 100% markup. That's my first initial thought. So I know industry standard typically is 60%. And then, like I said, depending on the industry, it changes greatly. But 100% is where I'd go. And then on top of that, adding another 10%. So whatever you think, I always suggest, and I do it myself, add 10 more percent. The worst thing that's going to happen is your product's not going to sell, and now you can lower the price. But if you start too low, then you're always catching up. So just definitely make sure you're thinking about catching up ahead of time. So next, I talked about perceived value. So one of my favorite examples of perceived value is Kanye West and his shirts. So Kanye West goes on tour, and he puts the Yeezy logo on his shirt, and he has Glidden make them. So each shirt costs $2 for him to make, and he sells them for $80 at his concert. And people line up. You can buy the same shirt at Walmart, but this one has Yeezy on it, and its perceived value is $80 a shirt, and made him a multi-billionaire. That's perceived value. So the same thing goes for your product is, okay, you know what? I made the product, and the product cost me $10 to make. And Dawson said, do 100% markup. But I talked to a bunch of people, and they think this product is worth a 700% markup. Then sell it for 700%. And worst comes to worst, it won't sell, and you can lower the price. But to just watch your perceived value and what your customers are telling you is another huge thing. And then lastly is your competitor analysis. And that is if you're really competing with the product, like my doors, I'm competing with another door. My door should probably be sold for a bit more than I sell it for, but better weather stripping, better magnetic seals, better thresholds, but Home Depot is so much cheaper, right? And it's just a door to a lot of people. So you have to do my perceived value and my competitors. I have to make sure I'm covering the cost of my additional stuff, but my markup's not as high as I'd like it to be because I wouldn't sell as much of the product, and I get more profit from selling more product than I do if I sold less product at a higher value. And those are kind of the main things I look at while approaching product pricing.
That's some great advice. And again, I really hope everybody's taking notes because, and thank goodness we're gonna have a recording of this because I'm definitely gonna want to watch this section back on pricing. So it's some really great advice. Okay, so we're gonna skip a question on our list, Dawson. We're gonna jump to how to maintain product quality and customer satisfaction as the business grows. Do you have any insights on that? When perhaps you feel that, when you talked about phase B, right? When is it time to upgrade a product, for example?
Okay, so implementing quality control measures, and once again, that's figuring out what you think is acceptable versus not, investing in your staff training, and prioritizing customer service. So maintaining that quality, that product quality, a huge thing, in my opinion, is doing your research from when you give the product to a customer. So my number one thing that I do is Google reviews. And I shove Google reviews down my customers' throats like crazy. They walk in, hey, the service was great. Leave me a Google review. I installed the product. Leave me a Google review, because your Google reviews are going to help with that quality control. And when somebody leaves you a Google review, you can message them and say, call me. I want to fix that, right? Or what went wrong? Why is it wrong? And that's a huge thing. For me, I like Google because it's open to the public. Everyone gets to see it. Some people, that's a lot scarier for them. So then you have to do, when I did painting, we had an assessment sheet. So it would go over, how are the painters inside of your house? How is the washability of the paint afterwards? You might email that to them, a month after, and you're looking at all these things so that if they're saying, well, it was great that your workers were great. They came in, they painted my room and everything, but I got scuffs on my walls and I went to wash them and it's not coming off. It's like, okay, how can I make that paint washable, or what can I do to improve that? And so now at that point in time, that's when you start going, okay, so I have a lot of customers saying the same thing. So we had at the beginning stages, as we said, one customer came in and said, it would be great if you added this to your product. And you said, well, that's later date. You launched a bunch of the product, and now you have 10 customers saying this would be great to add. Well, now it's time. Okay, we're going to invest our time and our energy into adding this into our product while maintaining that product quality. And that you maintain product quality when you send out the new product, and it comes and you have reassurance of 5-star reviews, 4-star reviews. Not everyone gives a 5-star review. I've learned that. But a 4-star can still be an amazing review as well, right? Depending on your customer and your client. And then when you get that 1 or 2-star review, why? Or even 3 stars, it's why. What was missing? Or did you manufacture a little bit wrong? That's also that tolerance, right? Of, yeah, we sent it out anyways. And then it came back. And sometimes you sent it out anyways. And then they call and you're like, okay, yeah, we need to go fix that. And that's just it. And so implementing the quality control measures of understanding what you think is acceptable and then following that. And if it becomes not acceptable, then go and fix it. And as long as you're fixing it and you're going back and you're keeping your customers happy, that is great. And this is where it comes back to me saying that extra 10%, when I was like, oh, these are what your costs are, and this is what you're okay with, and this is what you want to sell it for. And I say, add that 10%, because now when you got to go and fix things, it doesn't feel as bad because you already added that 10%. And that 10% is your safety net that you didn't assess for, you weren't prepared for, because you'll never be prepared for everything. And that's why it's there to help your quality control, because quality control at the end of the day is not profitable. When something is not right, you're losing money. And so to have that extra 10% that you can fall back on, I think is one of the most important things, so that when you're doing it, you're not pulling your hair out because you're losing a bunch of money.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's some great advice again. And I think that kind of waiting for that customer feedback to say, like you said, not just getting one piece of advice, but when it keeps coming up, then making that decision to go ahead and move forward with change. So what advice would you give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to develop their first product?
So start with a clear vision and focus on solving a specific problem. So solving your problem is the reason why you're doing this. Um, when I was younger, that was one of the biggest things that actually was one of my issues. Is I was always looking at the money, the monetary value of, oh, if I develop this and I create this and I start this business, I'm going to become rich. Well, you can't have that mindset. The mindset that you really have to have is focusing on solving a specific problem that a current product is not delivering, right? One of my favorite sayings is don't don't reinvent the wheel, right? Just use the wheel that's already turning, make it better. And if you can do that with a lot of products, most likely if you have an idea, somebody already had that idea. Whether they were able to make it tangible and able to bring it to market and make it profitable is probably unlikely. And that's why it's now going to be your idea. So starting with a clear vision, focus on solving a specific problem is very important. Staying very patient. And once again, I've talked about this many times, adaptable is you got to adapt. You have to be adaptable. If you're narrow-minded, you're going to have a really hard time. I'm not saying it's impossible, but you're going to have a hard time because things don't go the way that you plan them. And open to feedback throughout the entire development process. Building a great production takes time, and a great product takes time. So it's just going back and forth and making sure that you are patient and solving a problem. And if you're solving a problem that a lot of people have, you're creating usefulness, and that is what people pay for, is actually something useful in the economy, and that's what you're looking to do. Kind of like I did with my screen door, right? There's those retractable doors. You take the retractable door, you slide it over, and there's a retractable screen door. But the problem is they don't last longer than a year. They don't make it through a single winter, right? So changing how that door operates and works allows it to have a longer time to be effective and a product that somebody's going to use. And solving that specific problem was having a screen door that doesn't literally fall apart in the middle of our winters when you slide it over in that track.
Hmm. Great advice again, Dawson. Where can we find your products?
So you can find my products at Sudbury Windows and Doors Polar Bear. We are located beside McDonald's on Notre Dame, behind Algonquin Equipment. We're moving soon, so we'll be actually beside Burger King on Notre Dame. But that is where you find our products.
Amazing. And do you sell your products anywhere else, or are they exclusive to your business?
So right now they are exclusive to my business. This is part of my 2025 expansion. I expect to be selling my products across Ontario by the beginning of March. Um, yeah, that's all in the works. That's part of my next development stage right now, is getting online and delivering products in the window and door segment that no one else does. You can't just go online and order a front door off Amazon. But if all goes right, you should be able to order a front door very soon, across Ontario. And once again, like I said, when I was talking about the stages of supply chain development, I have to develop a supply chain to deliver my doors across Ontario, because the sheer size of them, no one else will do it. So if I'm going to do this, I literally have to be the one hiring a guy to get in a truck and drive across Ontario, make it feasible for me to have a guy literally delivering doors to your front door across Ontario. I don't think I'm going up to Thunder Bay in that way. I'm going to Southern Ontario to start off. Once again, deciding where can you start, what can you do, and what can't you do, and going that way. We've been in business since 1980. but I've been with the business for the last 6 years, and have owned it for 2.
Amazing. Congratulations. For anybody that's still here, please go ahead and type in the chat your question. Encourage you to ask Dawson some questions. This honestly was a really informative. It's lunchtime, right? When I haven't eaten yet. My words get a bit jumbled, but very informative session, Dawson, with some really great advice. I really look forward to visiting your business, taking a look at your products in person, and really perhaps testing them out in the next few years.
Definitely.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure.
I see some people typing.
I need to open up the chat. Let's see. We got some questions.
Okay, out of the box, what kind of products or companies are missing in Sudbury?
Tons. There are so many different things. To say one specifically, I'm not overly too sure. But so basically, we're a mining town, right? And so there's manufacturing of all sorts of things. Like, I didn't expect to get into windows and doors. So from there, what I would say is, with the modern CNC machines and that kind of stuff, is you're looking for products that you can manufacture, right? Products that you can create yourself. Looking through the Toronto markets, Vancouver markets, Montreal markets, New York markets, and seeing what manufacturers exist there, and saying, okay, so they're manufacturing a door hinge, right? I order my door hinges from Toronto. So, for example, no one makes a door hinge in Sudbury. Could you make a door hinge with a CNC machine? For sure, you probably could, right? And then supplying it in the city. That would be my one example, is no one's making door hinges in the city of Sudbury right now. And people are buying them, right? Every door has at least 3 hinges. So that's just one example. But I would say, if you're looking to find what products are missing in Sudbury, you would look into starting by saying what's in Sudbury. So we know mining, hydro, obviously windows and doors, and you create a mind map of what is in Sudbury, so that you know what's here, and then start looking in areas across Ontario of what is there that we don't have, and find that, to start your business, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, we have another question that came in. For very early stage, you have new ideas. How many new customers or potential ones you have to actually move forward? And for new type of service, not a lot of useful info on the web. How to get useful insights doing market sizing. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a new idea. How many new customers or potential ones you have actually moved forward? So, and that's just it. I would say this comes down to monetary value. How much does it cost to get a new customer? And how much does it cost to develop this? Now, if we're spending $500,000, we definitely want to know that once it's developed, we're going to have quite a bit of customers, right? Because we need to make that money back. Now, if we have a very small amount of development charges, right? If we can make this for $1,000 and we have the $1,000, and we have 1 or 2 customers that are going to offset that cost, well, then it's worth moving forward right away, right? So I definitely say, when it comes to when you're okay to move forward, especially if it's a web-based and it's more or less your time, and you can't find a lot of insight from doing market sizing or research, that's where I'd say go back to Statistics Can, try to find out what demographic you're in, how much of that demographic exists in different areas across Canada, and then say, okay, so maybe I can market on Facebook in those certain areas, just a light little questionnaire or something along those lines. Spend $50 in marketing, get a couple feedback from a few people, to say, hey, is this something that we'd be looking for? Yes. Okay, great. And then start developing your product, because if it is a truly new product that not a lot of people have, and it's not a high expense to you, then yeah, it's something that you'd have to develop to continue to get feedback on.
And thank you for those questions, folks. I see there's one more coming in. Oh, it's a thank you. So thank you again, Dawson. And if there are no more questions, again, thanks for your time. We do have a recorded video. We will be sharing it with the people who attended today, along with a short little survey. We talked a lot about feedback today, so it'll be great to get some of that feedback, and it will be posted up on our website as well. So thank you.
No problem, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. I'm at Sudbury Windows. If anyone really ever has questions or they just want to talk, I mean, walk right in. I'm just here running my business. I'm happy to help. I love seeing entrepreneurship, young people. There's not too many people around that are doing these kinds of things. And I want to grow Canada and Ontario just as we are. And we need young people and old people to be innovating and designing products. So keep it up. And yeah, that's great. You guys are more than welcome. And thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.